Hey, Kilted Warrior here. Hope you're having a great day. Remember to subscribe if you enjoy this video, and if you'd like to see more videos covering Elder Scrolls, Fallout and Mass Effect, feel free to check out the channel. Otherwise, let us begin. Morrowind, Dwemer, Resdayn, a land of fire and ash. Here, fleeing persecution, Veloth and his people made a home in the shadow of doom and destiny. They were to be tested, and though they would stumble and face ruin from within and from without, the spirited people, worshipping gods old and new, would endure and create a legacy of triumph, hubris, regret, and be at the heart of events that would define a people, the world, and the divine. And its saints and heroes would never be forgotten, so long as the ancestors watch over the heirs of the moon and star.
Now go, mortal. Embrace your destiny. Defend these lands with my blessing.
Just a quick disclaimer, this video will spoil most of the main quest of Morrowind, as well as have some references to its two expansions. As for how the Khajiit relate to Azura, I will be staying away from that for the most part and leaving that for a future season of Elsewhere, though I shall make some references to their myths that will grant us some insight onto the how and why of the events of Morrowind regarding Azura. That said, any non-Morrowind related references will be kept to the final part of the video, the legacy of Lorkhan. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this look at the Goddess of Twilight. Azura, the Lady of Twilight. Azura, the Queen of the Dusk and Dawn, the Mother of Roses, the Mother Soule. The Goddess of Twilight is a powerful and most influential deity that holds sway over not one but two of the great peoples of Tamriel, in a manner no other Daedric Prince can claim. To the Dwemer, she is one of the great god ancestors that guided Veloth from the Aedra. It was she who would guide the Dwemer through the many trials they would face, as the goddess of wisdom. To the Khajiit, the desert dwellers of Elsewhere, she is the mother of all Khajiit, giving them their forms and overseeing the moons and the lunar lattice. Her importance cannot be overstated, and she has had a hand in many events, with her being noted for her great love of her followers, but also her fury against those who deny her. Hers is the duality of the nature of all things, light and dark, moon and star. By understanding her, we understand the complex Dwemer community she helped build. By understanding her, we may glimpse into the reality of the divine, creation, existence, and the events that had started with Lorkhan.
Love. With Azura, everything begins with love. A love that is fierce, possessive, even cruel, but always true and impossibly deep. What matters is that Azura loves them, and what my lady loves she always reclaims, eventually.
As our land was scorched by fire and brimstone, Azura's prophecies led us to safety. She is the goddess of dawn and dusk. Azura sees into the twilight of the future and guides her followers through it. The visions are a gift. Azura warns me of tragedy, war, death, before it happens. I won't leave her guidance.
Azura, the Lady of Prophecies. Though the worship and influence of Azura is seen throughout Tamriel, her preeminence in Dwemer society is unmatched, as even with the most titanic shift for the most venerable people that saw them turn to the living gods, Azura marked all of them with a curse to remind them that their leaders had betrayed her and her champion. Yet though she marked their skin for all to see, she did not abandon them, nor did they truly abandon her, as even the tribunal could not deny the anticipation of Sophicel's position as the god ancestor of community, prophecies and wisdom. When speaking of the good Daedra, though most know it includes Mephala and Boethia, even outsiders have called Azura perhaps the only truly good Daedra, as while Mephala and Boethia thrive on discord, murder, treachery and deceit, Azura is the glue that holds together Dwemer community, through a love that is true, but if rejected or betrayed is vengeful, just as the Dwemer themselves are taught to be. For even though the Chimera rejected her love when their leaders stole what was not theirs, despite her warnings, she did not seek the demise of the Dwemer, but scolded them as any mother would, but working to punish those who had led her children astray. For her beloved champion, Nerevar, would be reborn, and Nerevarine, as Azura's will, would free the false gods of their past sins, remake Morrowind just as she had prophesied, and then she would reclaim her place at the centre of Dwemer community, a broken family healed, brought together once more. Even through the long years of tribunal rule, Azura, as the goddess of wisdom, would have her most loyal followers, the Outlanders, carry on the Velothi traditions, remember what their ancestors had fought for, and through their wise women each tribe would be guided by Azura through visions that the coming of Nerevar, for it was foretold, for Azura is both a lady of prophecy and a storyteller to the Dwemer, and would never let them forget the past, nor forget what she, what Mephala and Boethia, what Veloth had done for them, what Nerevar sacrificed. So even after her restoration, reclaiming her place, the Dwemer community would recount the stories, the lessons, and draw her divine wisdom from them. Yet even a loving mother must teach her children to understand consequence, responsibility, and hence why the Dwemer would face calamities following the fall of the tribunal. As Azura watched, she would grant many of her people visions prior to the Red Year, allowing a mass exodus of the faithful, but not all heeded the visions. Regardless, she knew it would make them stronger, wiser, as the false tribunal had led them to believe they were infallible, without responsibility for their actions. But the reclamations teach that they are not infallible. They had a responsibility, and only by enduring, learning, can the Dwemer improve and forge stronger bonds. The Dwemer never truly forgot Azura's love, her place in their hearts, and so there was redemption for them. But what of those who defy and attempt to break all bonds of joint spiritual community? What happens when an enigmatic race scorns not just Azura but all gods? What of the Dwemer? Azura and the Dwemer, wisdom and knowledge. Nothing, however, was a greater question to Nishovar than the limits of divine power. Were the greater beings the masters of the entire world, or did the humbler creatures have the strength to forge their own destinies? As Nishovar found himself nearing the end of his life, he felt he must understand this last basic truth. Among the sage's acquaintances was a holy Chimera priest named Athenic. When the priest was visiting Bathalag Zatorams, Nishovar told him what he intended to do to find the nature of divine power. Fennec was terrified and pleaded with his friend not to break this great mystery, but Nishobar was resolute. Finally, the priest agreed to assist out of love for his friend, though he feared the results of this blasphemy. To understand the relationship between Azura and the Dwemer, one work stands out as a cautionary tale of some of the reasons why the events of Red Mountain occurred, with Nerevar fighting the Dwemer and then their subsequent disappearance. Azura and the Box, supposedly a tale once spoken by the Dwemer, though it may have been a fabrication, it can tell us much about the Dwemer and their relationship with the gods, whether it be true, partially true, or a fictional tale that their race spoke of, before later peoples would then reiterate the story. As we see you in our land, Azura, you are the goddess of the dusk and dawn, and all the mysteries therein, said Nishobar, trying to appear as kindly and obsequious as he could be. It is said that your knowledge is absolute. So it is, smiled the Daedra. You would know, for example, what is in this wooden box, said Nishobar. Azura turned to Fennec, her brow furrowed. The priest was quick to explain. Goddess, this Dwemer is a very wise and respected man. Believe me, please, the intention is not to mock your greatness, but to demonstrate it to this scientist and to the rest of his skeptical race. I have tried to explain your power to him, but his philosophy is such that he must see it demonstrated. If I am to demonstrate my might in a way to bring the Dwemer race to understanding, it might have been a more impressive feat you would have me do, growled Azura, and turned to look Nishobar in the eyes. There is a red-petaled flower in the box. You see, the Dwemer were a race that sought out answers to all questions. They did not assume, yet it is not surprising the idea that sooner or later they would have attempted to summon a Daedric Prince to test their theories, as anyone might summon a prince on their summoning day. It is natural that the once friends of the Dwemer and the Chimer, who were deeply religious, would find discourse on the nature of divinity. Hence it would not be unreasonable to think a Dwemer would summon the deity that is so important to the Chimer people. However, this need to ask questions of the divine may have played a role in their disappearance at the climax of the War of the First Council. Did they ask one too many questions? Nishobar did not smile or frown. He simply opened the box and revealed to all that it was empty. When the students turned to look to Azura, she was gone. Only Fennec had seen the goddess's expression before she vanished, and he could not speak. He was trembling so. A curse had fallen. He knew that truly, but even crueler was the knowledge of divine power that had been demonstrated. Nishobar also looked pale, uncertain on his feet, but his face shone with not fear, but bliss, the smile of a Dwemer finding evidence for a truth only suspected. I have studied very much over the years, performed countless experiments, taught myself 1,000 languages, and yet the skill that has taught me the final truth is the one that I learned when I was but a poor young man, trying only to have enough gold to eat, whispered the sage. He was escorted up the stairs to his bed. A red flower petal fell from the sleeve of his voluminous robe. Nishobar died that night, portrait of peace that comes from contented knowledge. It was a curious tale, if there was truth to it. If it did happen, what we know is that the priest knew his goddess demonstrated divine power in a manner that scared him, and the Dwemer, not mocking her, but certainly found the answer he was looking for, even though it likely killed him, and he knew it would. Azura seemed to have known that there was, at least at first, a red-petaled flower in the box, and that the Dwemer, as they are wont to do, care not for rules or sincerity when it comes to getting the answers they are seeking. So this Dwemer sage pulled a sleight of hand, removing the flower. He likely knew that the goddess would see through his parlour trick, but maybe that wasn't the point. The box was not the point. It seems he simply wanted to see that he could have the agency to use a trick, and was curious if the divine would stop it, thus infringing upon his agency and therefore denying him the ability to forge his own destiny. The tale indicates, at least for Azura, that this existence is not of pure order or determined in the moment-to-moment. Individuals like the Dwemer sage can make a choice, forge their own destiny, and they are not prevented from doing so. It proves that divinity is either not absolute or that it allows for some agency. Yet Azura then makes the point that you can do your parlour trick. You can choose to make an enemy of the divine, but there are consequences. He gained his answer, but it cost him his life. This is reinforced by the time Azura and Sheogorath tested whether solitude would make Azura's follower go mad, as it shows Azura is willing to make a wager, allow choice, but must be done fairly and without deception, as Sheogorath attempted to cheat Azura by disturbing the follower's solitude, something she abhorred, just as the Dwemer sage had played his trick, his deception, to prove his agency. The interaction with the Dwemer sage allowed both parties to gain the measure of the other. The Dwemer would not be bound by any limitations. Every tool, every trick is permitted in this existence, even against the divine, even if deceitful and hollow. You must think outside the box, but existence can push back, and do not think your actions will go unchallenged. Whatever the case was, Azura gave him the knowledge he sought, through trickery, or an understanding that none in that room were aware of. But the lesson perhaps was that some doors should not be open, just as Kagrenac should not have meddled with the heart, just as the Tribunal and Dagoth should not have meddled with divinity. You might have the agency to use a trick to evade the rules of existence, divinity, briefly, but in the end, it may be a trick you only pull once. The question then becomes, with the myths and the appearance that Azura and the Dwemer were at odds, the question is, did Azura seek their demise? Did she foreshadow their doom as that petal fell from the sage and he would sleep his last? If the tale was true, perhaps what can be said is that Azura is linked in some manner to the balance of existence, whether it is the treatment of souls, the nature of divinity, fair play, the idea she may seek to uphold Lorkhan's legacy, his plan for existence. She believes in some degree of mortal agency, but there is responsibility, consequences, and that careful contemplation, patience, rather than shortcuts is the path to wisdom. The Dwemer were an existential threat to the natural order. They would keep asking their questions, and though their quest had clear academic merit, their hubris may have risked calamity. For if they found a way to kill gods or counter them, would they destroy this existence out of sheer cynicism and arrogance? They had the agency to act, but they may have chosen their own demise. Many things might be said of Azura. Her commitment to this existence, for various reasons, seems genuine, for she is also a goddess of wisdom, while the Dwemer seem to be obsessed with knowledge at any cost. Yet without wisdom is to court disaster, for better or worse, as they found out. In the end, Azura did not mock their passing, when the Nerevarine succeeded in their destiny, she only noted them as a footnote, folly that doomed them alongside the other false gods. For the Dwemer, by using Lorkhan's heart, was no different from those false gods, and their cynicism was echoed in Dagorfur by the end.
Azura's Star, a Daedric artifact that allows any number of souls to pass through it. I mentioned how the star is a soul gem, only it never gets depleted. There's another rule the artifact follows. You can only store white souls in the star belonging to the lesser creatures. Azura's magic won't allow black souls to enter it. As a mortal, Malin's soul was black, so part of his work was breaking past Azura's rules.
Azura, the Mother Soul and Necromancy. Just as Azura is a goddess of wisdom who was anathema to the Dwemer way of thinking, and was a goddess of community that bound the Dunmer together, she is also a goddess associated with souls. Most deities have concerned themselves with souls and their treatment. On one side you have Molag Bal, who believes in tormenting them, dominating them with no regard for the consequences upon the soul itself, warping it, corrupting it, while you have Arche, who seeks to prevent any manipulation of a soul's path in life and death, the circle that he guards. One embraces the use of necromancy, unnatural manipulation of souls, and the other scorns it. Then you have Azura. For the Dunmer, she naturally aligns with their form of ancestor worship, as the spirits of the dead ancestors do not follow the same path as Aedra worshippers, who traditionally would find their way to Aetherius. The body, as the ashes, and the spirit remains available to guide their descendants in Dunmer culture. This may not be directly credited to Azura, but the practice supports her view of community, contemplation, and wisdom. Yet when the Dunmer call their ancestors spirits, who have been denied the traditional path of mere souls, are they not performing a form of necromancy? On Necromancy, possibly written by the so-called Witch of Azura herself, Vastari states, "A wise necromancer does not wish to fight for control of his creation with an angry spirit seeking a way back into the world. Best to be certain all of the creature's soul has departed before reanimation begins. Even should the necromancer win the battle, it is a cruel victory, tormenting a spirit on its way to rest." It suggests that long-departed souls can be returned willingly to assist. In theory, the Chimera may have, with the help of Azura, found a way to allow ancestor souls to willfully remain to assist them. That is, they can be awoken from their slumber when required. So it may be concluded that Azura and the Dunmer support a form of good necromancy which is not coercive and is not about tormenting souls, but about venerating them, respecting their wisdom, and in return they help their descendants. This thinking might be also why Azura is said to be a crucial part of the path of a Khajiit's soul also. Yet at the same time, Azura would appear to be an enemy of dark or traditional necromancy, with examples such as in Cyrodiil when she sent her followers to kill an ancient vampire before it infected them, then having a champion in the Third Era seek to release their souls. Presumably, she grasped their souls on death and stole them away from Molag Bal's clutches, as it is usually the case that a vampire's soul is drawn to Cold Harbour. Then in the Fourth Era, her most sacred artifact, Azura's Star, an exceptional soul gem, was used sacrilegiously by a necromancer to extend his life by placing his own soul within it. Yet the gem is not meant for black souls, and Azura sought to remove him from it. It tells us that Azura does not approve of any manipulation or exploitation of black souls, but is wise enough to allow cooperation with souls willingly, at least, regarding the mortal races. That said, once again, it reinforces the idea that the Lady of Twilight is not a pure good or evil, or order or chaotic being, but seeks a path between, perhaps not dissimilar from the legendary Lorkhan.
Souls contain tremendous power, but they place certain checks on mortal will. Divesting the two, soul and mortal form, removes these boundaries. The effect is a virtually limitless magical horizon. The process extracts a heavy toll, of course.
Azura, the true heir of Lorkhan's legacy. So Azura finds herself in a unique position among Daedric princes, with great influence upon two peoples, one who has once again embraced her wisdom, while the other lives in the shadow of her influence. She is as much a goddess of sacred and ancient customs as she is of wisdom and a mother. Yet what of the Twilight, that most important element of her portfolio, her aspects, known among the denizens of Tamriel, whether they worship her or not? And why is it so crucial, this understanding of light, dark, and the twilight between? Well, her actions regarding the heart of Lorkhan and the Nerevarine, as well as her role in Khajiit myths related to the god that the heart belonged to, tell us Lorkhan's path, his fate, is of great importance to her. That is, Lorkhan is the purest expression of twilight. He was capable of actions of both light and dark. Existence on Tamriel is in itself a balance between light and dark in every mortal, and even every god, not fully ordered nor discordant, but somewhere between, a twilight, perfection. If it is true that Azura was there when Lorkhan was born, and was the favoured daughter of Fadome, and that she was also there when he was about to die, or at least lose his physical form, having lost his heart, it suggests that Lorkhan and Azura are the deities of twilight, light and dark, both possibly touched by the void, granting them a clarity of existence other gods lack. If true, and with the reality that Azura clearly sought to protect Lorkhan's heart from tampering, and guided the Nerevarine to release it, and her commitment to resisting those who might harm Lorkhan's great project, is she not the true heir of Lorkhan's legacy? Furthermore, are the Dwemer by extension Azura's attempt to forge a race of twilight, as Dwemer are known for both great acts of heroism but also cruelty when required? They learn the teachings of discordance from Mafala, spinning webs of deceit and treachery, and from Boethia, who notably bested Zenimax, a great foe of Lorkhan, while Azura, through community, wisdom, teaches them to still be at harmony with Mundus and the gods who rule it, even if there is no love lost between Azura and the Aedra, noting that she has had her qualms with them, particularly Kinrith or Canarfe regarding the Khajiit. But Azura has never sought to threaten the Aedra directly, seemingly maintaining a policy of non-intervention and non-aggression, unlike Molag Bal and Dagon. Is she the heir of Lorkhan's legacy, his truest ally? I think she might be. Morrowind reinforces this, as do many myths about her, but there may be more to it. Regardless, let me know your thoughts on Azura, Lorkhan, and her long game and legacy. Conclusion: the faithful and the godless. The twilight fades as a new day begins, for Azura saw her champion bring down the false gods, and bring about a new dawn for the Dwemer and the world. Yet what of those who are not content with the machinations of gods? What of those who seek to understand divinity and surpass even the gods? Next time, we shall delve into the deep by exploring that most enigmatic and mysterious race in Elder Scrolls, the Dwemer, and attempt to understand who they were, their beliefs, their actions, and what really happened to them, as well as their own potent legacy. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this look at the Goddess Azura. We will certainly return to her in the future. Admittedly, she is one of my favourite Daedric Princes, and I would love to hear what your favourite Daedric Prince is and why. Otherwise, remember to subscribe if you want to be notified of the next release in this season of Morrowind. It should be within the next week. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day, stay safe, and thanks for watching.